Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Bonsoir, mes amis. It's myself, Andrew Berkshire, here with Scott Matla, and I'm going to be honest with y'all. It was a tough slog of a day for me today. It was a very long day where I had to deal with my youngest up last night from 2 to 4 a.m., and then I had a really long work day today. Everything sucked. Everything was tough. Everything was a slog. I was so exhausted, I barely even motivated myself to shower. And then Ivan Demidov signed with the Montreal Canadiens, and all of a sudden my day got a lot better. And then the kids came home from daycare and they were fun. And we had a good dinner, and then the Canadiens gave us this. So the world is shit. But the Montreal Canadiens are doing their part. So thank you to Ivan Demidov and the Montreal Canadiens. Scott Matla, how are you feeling tonight?
Well, and I got to shout out Andrew G, who went to an AHL game in Manitoba last week. And as the very happy Moostapus says right now, everything's pretty damn good right about now. And this day's been, like Andrew said, it's been busy. I work on the road a lot, doing a lot of things in uncertain times. And then a whole bunch of good things happened. The Rocket, they signed Tyler Thorpe to an ELC. Ivan Demidov came in. And then this game happened, and it was almost terrible. And then it wasn't. And now we're here with everybody else, which is all you can hope for at the end of the day. So things are good. Things are real, real good right about now.
Yeah, I see Romelli's in the chat saying best day ever in the chat, or for the CH fans, except for winning a cup. Demidov and a win tonight. Claire is here. Hi, Claire. Kay is in the chat. MFM, Gary Bisson, Alexandre Christian, Outrage, Andrew Gesprick. Denis is here. So many. I see Piano Matt, Keck shows. There's so many friends here enjoying this with us. The hype is real in Montreal right now. The vibes are off the charts. Like the charts were gone yesterday. And now the charts, there's no such thing as charts anymore. They're off the page. The book is on fire because it's Montreal. You got to light stuff on fire. The Bell Center has gone from supportive of a rebuild to straight up cocky. Like, you're up by 1 goal with 4 minutes left. The other team has the puck and are forechecking in your zone. And you're throwing out the Olays. And not only that, and I'm only going to be mean for a short amount of time, Scott, and then I'm going to pass to you, and then we're going to have fun the rest of the way. But I have to be mean a little bit off the top. Not only were they that cocky, they were right. The Canadiens came into this game clearly exhausted after, the run of games that they've just had, winning incredibly important games against really good teams. They look terrible. And I think they came into this game and thought, we can come into this game and not bring our A game in the most important game for the Detroit Red Wings in like 9 years and win. And they can. And they did. They proved it. And I got to say, I was watching this game and yeah, Detroit owned the puck. But how many chances did they have to bury it, and they just muffled on the shot? And I gotta say, Scott, I think they might just be losers.
It's such a weird thing because for the first period, they didn't bring their A game, their B game, their C game, D, E, F. I think we might get like G or H, and that's what they brought. And Samuel Montembeault just decided, hey, I've heard everyone talking crap, and I'm just going to bail these guys out until they get their legs back. And yes, there's travel, and they're probably exhausted. I'm not going to worry about the construction of this team or anything coming into this game. I don't care about that right now because things are too good, and I'm not going to nitpick anything. And then they just got it done. When JT Compher, with Samuel Montembeault standing behind the net in like that freeze frame moment, with the net wide open there, and he doesn't score that, that's how you know this game is not going your way. And we've seen Habs games like this before. You get 1 goal and nothing else bounces your way. We've seen it. It sucks. I have a pretty good relationship with most Red Wings fans as far as I know. I don't use Twitter anymore, so I don't know if they still have any grudges over there or not, but no, this is the first time they've looked at this and been like, JJ from Kansas pointed out, is like, if the Wings don't score 3 goals by the end of this period, they are not going to win this game. And wise men and wiser words have never been spoken. It was stressful, but every bit of that team is playing for every other guy out there, and it shows. Those penalty killing shifts were incredible. The Bell Center is electric. Like you said, Olaying up one goal, not quite as cocky as Olaying down one goal and then scoring a tying goal like they did against Colorado. But that there is no place in the hockey world, the North American hockey world, that when things are clicked and they are locked in, the Bell Center is just a different world. They don't call it the Mecca of hockey for nothing, and it's games like this that showcase that. When it gets loud, it's rattling. And there are guys that have played in front of full crowds. This is a different beast, and if you're not ready for it, it's intimidating. Honestly, it's so just impressive to watch that. And the fans, like you said, from supportive to cocky, and they are there. The playoffs, and I'm knocking on wood, even though it's like 97%, are going to be absolutely electric for how many games they've got there.
Yeah, it's really special what they're building here. And I want to talk about Montembeault in a minute here as we're kind of wrapping up being mean to Detroit. But before I transition into that quickly, I feel like the whole hiring a former legend on your team as your GM thing is a really bad idea. Because now Detroit's in the situation, you're going to have to fire Steve Yzerman. The Detroit Red Wings are going to have to fire Steve Yzerman. Like, it's not working. It's not. That sucks.
I wonder if they're going to do like Joe Sakic did in Colorado, except Joe Sakic did a really good job. And that's so mean, but
The
it's
battle of the
true, is that
19s post-retirement is not as close as during on the ice.
I still think Joe Sakic is Colorado's GM because of all the smart things they keep doing. All credit to Chris McFarland. K, please don't yell at me. I did remember who the Avs GM is. I wonder if they just like, okay, Steve, you're going to be special advisor or something, and we're going to bring somebody in right now. And Detroit is in, and you don't want to be here, what I call the Buffalo zone, where I'm not sure what you are. There's so much good talent in that organization, and it won't all click into place at once. Like, they've got really good defensive players, and some of their forwards are aging out, but then they've got a bunch of really good forwards, and then the defense isn't where it needs to be. It feels like if it clicks all at once, they're going to be great, but it never does. And part of that's on Steve Yzerman constructing the current NHL roster. Their scouting's been immaculate. They have a lot of talent. Talent eventually has to be there to supplement the rest of this team. We're kind of seeing that with Montreal now. We're seeing it in the AHL with the Rocket. We're seeing it with guys coming over. And it's all, I hate to use the phrase, it's a process and trust the process, but I think with Yzerman, you're past that point and somebody needs a new process in place there.
Yeah, it's sad. All right, let's talk about the Habs because that's way more fun. I'm sorry, folks, for making you wait a few minutes here off the top. I needed to be a little bit mean to the Detroit Red Wings because it's called for. It's called for. Not the players even, just the organization. They're a mess. All right, I'm going to put up the still image over myself so you can still see Scott. He won't be able to see, but you can all see. This is from Dmitry Filipovich. It's Montembeault behind the net with JT Compher with the puck. Caden Gooley is about 8 feet away. Now, he can cover some of that with his stick, and he does put pressure on Compher, but Compher just roofs it and misses. And I can hear my former employer screaming, if you're a goalie, 10 the goal. But overall, I feel like this is just, it's emblematic of how this game went. And also maybe the ghosts of the Forum coming back a little bit. Because let's be real, they didn't deserve to get out of that first period down only 1-0. And I do want to talk about Montembeault because this is going to be the image that a lot of people remember from this game. And I feel like Monty is kind of in a situation where we take for granted how often that first period for Montreal has happened over the last couple of years, where they come out and they're either gassed or just not prepared, and they get run over completely, and Samuel Montembeault stands on his friggin' head and stops pretty much everything. And we never really talk about the fact that they're in so many of these games, they're able to be the comeback kings because of Samuel Montembeault. And I think that he should be the guy to win the Samuel Beauchamp Unsung Hero Award this year because I think that he's faced more criticism than praise. I know he's been inconsistent. I get that. But the fact is, the bona fides are there. And I'm looking at the way that he plays and the way he locks in heading into these playoffs. And yeah, I get it. Going from Carey Price to a more messy goaltender like Sam Montembeault is a tough transition for many fans. They only see the flaws a lot of the time. But I see a different spirit in Sam Montembeault. And that's Yaroslav Halak.
The funny part about Sam Montembeault, and there was a point in the late penalty kill in this game where I believe it was Lucas Raymond just rips one on net, and Montembeault is there, out, aggressively gloving that puck. There's no rebound, swallows it up, nobody's around him, and all I can think is he's not giving up anything else. That body language is there. You can, and I'm not going to be a body language expert. I'm not going to get into all that bull crap because it's a way people use to just create headlines that don't exist. But Montembeault from the start, even with the way that they came out, there's no sagging, there's no frustration. He's just there. Weird bounces off the boards aren't things that he control. He had everything else dialed in. Rebounds are going to the right area. He's gloving pucks down. There aren't in and out of the things. There aren't rebounds into the slot. He's not getting beat off the post from distance or anything tonight. He gave them nothing, and I think the Habs, despite giving up these shots, made it easy as it can be on that. I think Montembeault is obviously he's going to be that guy. I don't know if he's as chaotic as that 2010 Yaro Halak run is. Jakub Dobeš most certainly is, and I say that with nothing but love and affection for Jakub Dobeš. I continue to be blown away by how Samuel Montembeault is. Every time people are like, well, he's done. Maybe we should bring Caden Primo back up. Maybe it's time for Dobeš to be the starter. We need to do this. Can Fowler play? And he just comes right back like a phoenix. And that rut lasts like 3 or 4 games, maybe, where the Habs also aren't playing their best. And then he's back. Like, since Four Nations, he's been absolutely incredible. And he's a big part of why this Canadiens team is here. Because like you said, when they start slow and if he's having an off night, we have a game like the Seattle one where they're down 4-0 inside like 8 minutes. Or the Pens game where they lost 9-2 or whatever it was. They just look like a different team when Montembeault's out there and playing the way that he is up to. He is, if it weren't for Paul Byron, he might have surpassed him because he's a goalie. He might be the greatest waiver wire pickup the Canadiens have ever made. And I love Paul Byron, so that's high praise on my part.
Yeah, I saw on the broadcast tonight, he's now the second goalie in NHL history to be a waiver wire pickup that gets 30 wins after Ilya Bryzgalov, which is pretty damn incredible. And I should mention that again. This is his 30th win of the season, the first time for him. That's a huge mark for goaltenders. That's like the standard of you're a starting goaltender who can be relied on. It's a 30-win season, right? It's always kind of been that barrier. It's like it's almost like a point per game season for a forward in a lot of ways. And wins aren't really a goalie stat; they're a team stat. But it does mean something to goalies, and you could tell when they got this win, Montembeault was extra happy. It's important, like there's so many feel-good stories on this team that between Anderson, between like Dvorak, Gallagher, if I were the Washington Capitals, I'd be scared.
I was talking with somebody about this, that it's like, oh, there's a highly touted prospect winger coming into the playoffs where the Canadiens might just squeak in. That happened with Cole Caulfield. Oh, there's this really young, exciting defenseman who should go on to win Norris trophies and be one of the most electric players in the league coming into this Canadiens lineup that's going to squeak into the 1 seed or into the 8 seed, play the top Capitals team in the Eastern Conference, riding high off of Alexander Ovechkin achievements. Gee, where have I seen this before? And I'm not saying that Lane Hudson is PK Subban. I'm not, saying that directly, but I'm not saying that. There's a lot going for the Habs, and this Capitals team, now that Ovechkin has that record, they are a team of professionals, and I think there's every chance they can rebound and be fine going into the playoffs. But where is that adrenaline dump going to come in now that he's got that? And this Canadiens team, if Montembeault's playing well, if they have some of those other lines running the way they do, the defense running the way that it is, and they're just timely with everything, that you think you've got them trapped, and they just get one on you, and you're all of a sudden looking around trying to figure out what's going on, and they've got 2 more after that. It's a dangerous spot to be in. This Habs team has nothing to lose. They
Yep.
weren't supposed to be here, and this is gravy. Winning anything in the playoffs is gravy on top of the gravy, which is, I think I'm describing that the Habs are making poutine, but I might just be hungry, so I don't really know on that. But everything is extra fun now because they weren't supposed to be here. This was not supposed to be this team. Step forward, yes. Playoff contender? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I at the beginning of the year, my I guess homer take or like really optimistic view take was I thought this team had enough pieces to surprise and make the playoffs if everything went right. But that included like Kirby Doc getting back to what he was 2 years ago. That didn't happen. They're still here. Like that's crazy. Like the amount of things that had to go right for them. And yes, part of it is luck for sure, but also how many players they have pushed in the right direction, and those players have now taken the responsibility to build themselves back up, right? Gallagher, Anderson, Christian Dvorak, all these players are significantly improved over last year, over 2 years ago. These are veteran guys. They're not young development guys. Like this is incredible stuff that the Montreal Canadiens have accomplished. And then you see it on the development side for young kids as well, which is something else that I interested in this game. Kapanen looks amazing. And I know that it's not like the Canadiens reinvented the wheel by giving him 9 games at the start of the season and then letting him go back to play overseas, where he absolutely dominated, and then comes back and he doesn't have to be the new guy because he's coming back into a locker room where he knows everybody already. Like he's already had that introduction where he's been there for a month. He knows what it's like to play on Bell Center ice. So it's a much easier transition back into the lineup where he's a different player. Like he's got so much more jam in his game now. It's incredible to be able to balance that and make so many correct decisions in sequence. Like, will there be hiccups in this Hughes Gorton regime? Absolutely. But the amount of correct decisions, little decisions over time, have paid off so ridiculously. Like everything cascades together. It's like it builds, like Ian Boisvert's podcast, The Build, before he joined Locked On Canadiens to take the unfortunately impressive spot of Scott Matla that had to leave. It is a build, and it's not the big moves even necessarily. It's all the little ones piling together. It's incredible to watch. It's special. And one of the only things worth talking about that's positive right now.
It's the thing with this goes all the way back to hiring Jeff Gorton in the first place. It was a risk that they took to hire him as the VP before finding a GM and Gorton is not a French speaking person. He's not a native to Quebec and he learned on the fly. He's someone that knows the ins and outs of this. And we really should thank James Dolan and the Rangers. And by proxy, I can't believe I'm going to thank Tom Wilson for this. Because Gorton has, standards and morals, he got fired from the Rangers and then fell into the Canadiens' lap. Then Kent Hughes joined and everything that is entailed with that. And since then, it has just been positive step forward after positive step forward for this. There have been hiccups. Martin St. Louis looked like he might have been in over his head. There's been injuries. There's been bad seasons. There's been a lot of bad things. But there was always a forward-thinking plan with this.
Yep.
Oliver Kapanen played 9 games, went over to Sweden, played phenomenally, came back. Had he scored that goal tonight where he went through the defenseman legs, got that shot on goal, had he scored that building would have been rubble afterwards because holy crap, is that just playing up to that moment. And God love Michael Pezzetta, and I do. Having an Oliver Kapanen in your lineup more often than Pezzetta, who I assume may rotate in with a Joshua Watt, or if they bring somebody else up from the Rocket for this stretch run, since the Rocket are locked in at this point, it's a different team. And all of that is because they've built this depth up. It is not, I'm really hoping Charles Hudon makes it. I'm really hoping Daniel Carr makes it. I'm really hoping
Michael
Sven Andrighetto makes it. Yeah. I'm hoping this one guy that we've made the whole anchor being of this prospect pyramid pays off. If one doesn't, it's not the end of the world. And that's Hughes and Gorton. And Bergevin did do well stockpiling some picks. It's just sometimes they weren't always used on the right people. But Hughes and Gorton have just built up this prospect pool. And every time we think Florian Jacki, really? He has 21 goals on the season as a
Yep.
primarily fourth line center. Someone like a Jared Davidson. David Reinbacher's looked amazing in limited time. Everything is forward thinking with this team, and it's going to graduate to the NHL level here. Guys aren't coming up and they don't all totally look lost. There's some development, but there's just so much to get giddy about with this team that's currently here and what it will look like in the next 2 to 3 years as well.
You know what? You can tell the vibe has changed because a guy like Joshua Waugh, who last season was so good that I think most people assumed he would be like in ink in the lineup going into this season. He has not had a good year. Like by pretty much every measure, not as good as last year. He's struggled. He struggled with probably, from what I've heard, attitude as well. There have been things off ice that have not been great. This is why the initial send down happened, is what I've been told. Now that's improved. He has worked hard and everything, but he's not having the season that we all expect. Under Bergevin, he would just be the only guy, and we'd all be in a panic, like, oh, our best prospect, it's all off the, like, everything's falling off the rails. But now you can afford to have Joshua Waugh have that down year, and you're not even like, oh, do we need to trade this guy? No. You build back up. You go into next season, it's a fresh start. He has the latitude to do that. He might get passed in the depth chart, but now you're under pressure. You can find your metal, you know? The Canadiens have not had this situation long. Like,
I'm trying to think of the
feels like being
last.
spoiled.
It is. I can't think of the last time they had depth that I'm like, well, Joshua Waugh's not playing well. Okay, you can call up Sean Farrell, who has points in like his last 30 something games. You can call up an Alex Barré-Boulet to play on the fourth line, who's top 10 in AHL scoring. You can call up Jared Davidson, who has 20 plus goals. You can call up Florian Jacki, who has 20 plus goals. Oh, you need help on defense? David Reinbacher, they probably won't because they're taking their time with him as expected. But, oh, you can call up Adam Engstrom. Logan Mailloux has improved, still not great, has improved his game on that. There's so many different options that, like you said, is that one thing not working out does not destroy the entire plan. There's a plan A, B, and C for everything, and the development is great, which is why, like I said earlier, Tyler Thorpe is joining the Rocket. He's a 6'5", 220-pound power forward with a shot. That's exactly the kind of guy Pascal Vincent this season has turned into a monster, and I'm excited and giddy to watch him play at the end of the week here in New York. It's an exciting time to be a Habs fan. Regardless of what happens in the playoffs, there's still so much to look forward to that everyone can yell and scream, be like, oh, you didn't even make it out of the first round. Cool. Don't care. Things are good right now. I'm excited to see what's going forward here.
It's found money, right? Like everything that we get to experience from here on out, and same for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, is found money. It's also information into what they need to do going forward, right? If they get into the playoffs and all of a sudden we see, like, you know, Slaff's big games where he's big boy Slaff and he just physically dominates. If he's that guy every game in the playoffs, and like, that's nuts, right? And then we're going to have maybe the biggest skill injection into a single team that doesn't involve like a number 1 overall pick in one season between Lane Hudson and Ivan Demidov, which we're going to talk about in a second. But first, we got to tell you guys about Inchu Bijou. And on the other side, we will talk about Ivan Demidov with Scott Matla from Habs Eyes on the Prize. Folks, we are so excited to tell you about our new partner here at Game Over Montreal, a delightfully witchy goth and glam jewelry store making handcrafted art that varies from subtle silver to gold pieces to glamorous bespoke. Inchu Bijou is more than just a company. They've built a community through advocacy attitude that has made them an institution here in Montreal. Located in the historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, Inchu Bijou themed markets, Maleficarum Market, citizens from all over get together and showcase and sell their wares. Drop by 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise, Suite 278, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team. Or head to inchubijou.com and enhance your style. The next Maleficarum market will be on the weekend of February 8th and 9th. We'll see you there. Now, Let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out. All right, folks, I don't know if the audio is super laggy on your end. It looks like it is for me on OBS, but let me know. I don't really think there's anything I can do about it, but we'll continue with this show. All right, Scott, the Montreal Canadiens shocked the world today as it was announced that Ivan Demidov is leaving SKA and coming over to play here. Not just for the playoffs, but he's going to make it here for regular season games. It burns a year off of his contract, which, like, whatever, who cares? Ivan Demidov and Lane Hutson are going to play together. How should we be feeling right now, Mr. Matla?
If I had pants that could do the tearaway thing, like Chris Pontius Party Boy in like the old Jackass movies, that's what I would be doing right now. I had pulled into the parking lot to do an account visit today, and I was texting with Laura and Ian from Locked On Canadiens about this because we're like, there's some smoke to what's going on here, and then there's unconfirmed Demidov reports, and then all of a sudden everything hit at once, and I started hitting my steering wheel and hit the horn and scared the crap out of someone walking across the parking lot, so my apologies for that. But it's been such a long time since I freaked out and had a moment like that about anything. And I want to say since they drafted Demidov in the first place, that I've had a moment where it's the LeBron James smiling through this, I can't believe this is my life kind of moment. I'm ridiculously giddy. It would have been cool if they're like, hey, we're going to send him over. He's just going to be in there. He can practice, watch the games. He's going to start his contract next year. I would have been like, you know what? Step forward, great. The plan is, and I believe it was his old coach who said this, who looked at them and was like, he came up to me and said, I want to go to Montreal and I want to show how good I can be against Alex Ovechkin in the playoffs. Coming off of Ovechkin setting an NHL record for goals scored, the stones on that kid are massive. And here's the thing is, I think he can back up every single ounce of that. I'm going to call it moxie because that sounds a lot better than being arrogant or cocky, but I think that kid can do it. And that first goal that he scores at the Bell Center, Jeff Molson, don't worry about having to pay for a new roof. All the jersey sales will get you a completely new arena if you need it after that. I am so giddy.
My only request to Ivan is, let's be real, you're a child. Don't do what Svechnikov did, who also saw Ovechkin as a hero and fought him. Because that was not a good decision. You remember that?
Yeah, he knocked Svechnikov out like right before the playoffs, and the Canes that I think lost in round one.
Like, and it was brutal too. Like Ovi is the Russian machine that never breaks. Like, that is insane how strong that dude is.
He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to fight Svechnikov either. He's like, it's almost like the Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, I'm sorry, I love you. And then he just punches him out cold. Like, it's, someone better with me than Photoshop make that happen. That's my only ask for being on the show tonight.
Oh man. And like looking at what Demidov brings to the table and watching Hutson tonight, and eventually Anderson got his second chance and buried it and got the game winner, which was awesome. Great game from him. He was one of the only guys I thought that had jump from the start. He was trying to make plays happen. It wasn't like the execution wasn't there until the end, but he made it happen, right? But that setup from Lane Hutson in the third period was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. The amount of ankles Lane Hutson broke tonight only could fill a highlight pack. He is incredible. And I know he didn't get a point on the first goal, but Lane Hutson was as much a part of that goal as anybody else with the move that he made at the offensive blue line, I believe against Soderblom. And like, he owned Soderblom all night. Like, it was embarrassing how much better Lane Hutson is at abusing his center of gravity against big players. Like, they just can't handle him. And he keeps getting better. If Ivan Demidov can bring 25% of what he brought in the KHL to the NHL playoffs, pairing with Lane Hutson, like, where is your hype level on this, Scott? Because I don't even know where to go.
It's through the roof because the thing with Lane Hudson is he spun off of Soderblom, like bearing down on him in no space, got the puck out the other way down the ice, and then like 3 shifts later, he sent Justin Hall straight to hell. Like he went right around that man, and I'm like, I know Justin Hall's not an elite defender anymore or ever. I'm not 100% sure on that, but just you could see him. He brings the puck in, and it's just you're gone. Forget about it. Had that shot gone in off Anderson's stick, which good, great positioning and everything. Oh my God. And I said it before this year. If Lane Hudson hits 40 points, he had a great rookie season. I would be ecstatic if he hit 50. He'd be in the Calder conversation. And then he's just like, what if I just set a bunch of records while not really scoring any goals? Everything's assists. He is the hidden piece of this machine, which not really hidden because he's the focal point of, but he makes everything run every single time he's on the ice. That third period started, and the minute Hudson just broke Hall's ankles, the game shifted completely. And this is the Canadiens are the team that's going to win this game. You could see the soul leave their body because it's like you can't hit what you can't catch, and you can't catch him in the first place. And he's going to put it on the stick of a kid who lives to score big goals and goals that make you go to Reddit and go, oh, wow, holy crap, he did something amazing again with
Yep.
startling regularity.
It's astonishing, and I think when you look at the fact that we get to watch, like we've already watched Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki grow together and become, I mean, I guess you would call them NHL veterans right now, right? Like that's the stage of their career that they're in, and now they're going to get to experience their second bout of playoff action. Like I know that Suzuki had two, but that's like in the same wheelhouse, right? As a rookie and then a sophomore. Now, as veterans, they get to experience the playoffs in a different context. And we as fans and commentators, whatever, get to watch Demidov and Hudson grow together, along with Slavkovsky. Like, this is a very fortunate position to be in. I understand why there's a mood around the city right now. You can feel it in the air. Like there's an electricity and you can feel it in the Bell Center. And when that puck drops for game 3, if the Canadiens, even if they're down 2-0 in the series, it's going to be electric. But if they manage a split, they're going to bring Celine Dion back out or something, I think.
And here's the thing is, and this is my personal experience. I live in Buffalo, so like football season around here, it is a different energy. And since the Bills and now their league MVP, Josh Allen, have gotten better, when game day starts rolling around and the playoffs roll around, there is a different energy in this city. There is a swagger, and Montreal feels much the same way. Obviously, I wasn't there for the 2021 Cup run because COVID restrictions and everything else, but you feel it in the fan base. You see it online. You see it everywhere. Is that it feels different and it means something more to this team. You look at some of these playoff arenas and it's like it's excited. They've got their towels that they passed out or whatever, but it's not quite the same. This team right now, even if they didn't make the playoffs, having the Bell Center like this, but it's Demidov is bringing that just to another level. This team got insanely excited for Patrick Laine coming back at like 75% of his skill and talent, and they still do every time he touches the puck. Lane Hudson passing to Ivan Demidov in the Bell Center is going to break decibel records, and they don't even have to do anything. They could pass it back and forth in the defensive zone for 5 minutes, and the fans would lose their goddamn minds, and I don't blame them for a second of it. It's so good to see coming out of this tunnel a little bit with this. I am so excited. I don't know when his first game is going to be. He's on a plane right now somewhere in the air over the Atlantic coming out of St. Petersburg. I'm sure someone is tracking it because Habs fans are nuts, respectfully. I can't wait. His introduction at the Bell Center, whether it be as just, a healthy scratch that night or his first rookie lap as a player, it's going to be electric. It's going to be hair on your arms standing up kind of thing. I am so excited. I'm repeating myself, but I'm giddy at the thought of it. I Even with Cole Caulfield and with Lane Hutson, this might be the most excited I've ever been for a prospect's debut in Montreal. Honestly, and it's not particularly close.
No, and it's at the right time. This is when I had like a hot take earlier on this season on Hyperdrive Hockey. Uh, my hot take was that Lane Hutson would win the Calder, and I kind of got like it was an interesting reaction, but people were like, "Yeah, but Celebrini though." And my argument was he's arriving at the right time on the right team that wants to prove something. There's a combination of factors that create like a perfect storm for a player like Lane Hutson. And look what's happened. I didn't expect it to be this good. I think anybody who did is crazy because this makes no sense how good this kid is. And I think we're going to see a lot of similar things from Demidov. I don't know if it'll happen right away, but I think he's going to come in and be incredibly important. And I think that young Kapanen is making his argument to be the center between Line A and Demidov to start. And I would like to see it tried.
It's you can't argue against. I mean, you can put Ivan Demidov anywhere and he's going to be amazing.
Yes.
That's the key part, is he's going to be amazing no matter what he does. And that's what you want out of this. Kapanen feels like a guy who has a slightly higher skill level to match that. And Demidov managed to do a lot of this playing with Yevgeny Kuznetsov, who is far from Yevgeny Kuznetsov of the Capitals and Stanley Cup champion and all that other stuff.
Yep.
You could stick him with Jake Evans. I think it'll be great. I don't think they're going to break up the first line. I think it's just working too well, but there's every chance that if the Habs are in, they're going to go, "Hey, you know what? Here you go." Because at that point, it doesn't matter. The Habs are probably going to end up as wild card number 2. They're only 3 points behind the Sens, so who knows? But they have every opportunity to try him wherever they want. And I think if they're in and the Sens are, out of reach on that, they're just going to put him out there with Suzuki and Caulfield, or Suzuki and Slafkovsky, and just go, "Here you go. We've got Lane Hutson and Caden Gooley behind you. Just let it ride. Let's go see what you can do here." And it's going to be, I'm giddy. Like, my hands are shaking and I haven't even had caffeine in like 12 hours and they're just twitching with excitement for that.
Maybe it's because you haven't had it for 12 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So
at our age, probably not, Scott. I see Adam Glingland in the chat. This is one of the reasons why I love doing this show, is we get these contributions from the people live that make the show better. He was talking about Lane Hutson's ankle exercises, and I was like, "Yeah, share. What did you see?" And he said he saw a video of Hutson online with people asking him about it, and apparently, since he's been a kid, his dad would make him do like a 30-minute skate with his laces undone to help his ankle strength. Says he still does it. He must have incredible ankle strength and flexibility compared to a regular NHL skater. As someone who has a long history of ankle injuries, the idea of that horrifies me. It horrifies me because when I skate, I tie my skates so damn tight along the top to like, I really benefit from the new hard skate boots that solidify the ankle. I've only gotten to the point now where I can like stop 2-foot stop on both sides in the last year after like 20 years of it being just a mess. I work with my wife actually, who's a flexibility coach, to get my ankles back. But yeah, that is horrifying and clearly has built a level of edge work and ankle flexibility and strength that most players just don't.
I don't know how he does it. It's like I understand how they asked him all these things, but it's like I watch some of these guys do things, and it's like I didn't know players could do that. I watched Cole Caulfield escape hits that I don't think someone his size should be able to escape, because I've watched Brendan Gallagher and Brian Giunta and other guys, avoid part of it but get slowed down, and he and Lane Hutson they don't get hit. Nick Suzuki just makes passes that I don't think should be possible, and he does. This team is full of players who haven't hit their full potential yet and are still showcasing all the attributes of someone who should be a superstar in the NHL. And you could argue Nick Suzuki and Lane Hutson are superstars in the NHL at this point. Nick Suzuki is a point per game #1 center. I don't care what anyone says. And Lane Hutson's breaking Hall of Famers records like it's nothing. And it's his first full season. And he's 20, 21 years old. Forget about it. And this is, as Ian Boisvert likes to say, might be the worst version of Lane Hutson you ever see. And that's that's both terrifying and incredible at the same time. Because if this is the worst Lane Hutson we see, he's a 65-point defenseman who runs power play 1 like it's nothing. At 62nd overall. Forget about it.
It's an embarrassment of riches in so many ways. And Bernardo Saunier has put a bad name in the chat. He says, I'm so glad Marty's his coach and not Therrien. Thank Christ those days are over. And Trick is like, Bernardo, no, don't even say his name. I feel like that is also an undersold part of this rebuild, is that obviously there's frustrations tactically with some of the issues with Marty St. Louis, and we're going to talk about that coming up in a second here. But the way that he has his players back and the focus that he has on what his job actually is, which is to get the best out of each individual player to create a more cohesive unit, building that culture where they care about each other. He is an incredibly positive force for this team.
Sometimes you need to gentle parent your group of terrible fail sons forward into doing what, they should be doing. I always knew Cole Caulfield would have the goal scoring ability, but he's turned into a much more advanced, well-rounded player than I could have expected. Someone like Juraj Slafkovsky is likely very hard on himself. He's a first overall pick. He has a lot of pressure riding on him because he's a big part of Slovakian hockey now. And that slow start and the injuries probably hurt, and he's come a long way to being a menace. He's got some inconsistencies, but he's so far ahead of where he potentially could have been with another coach in that spot. Even the guys on defense. Lane Hutson's given the freedom to be like, hey, I'm just going to trust you to make the right play in this situation, and he does. Even the vets, guys like Gallagher, guys like Josh Anderson, Christian Dvorak, Martin St. Louis has been in slumps in his career. He's had scoring droughts. He's had issues. He can talk to them as that veteran voice that is like, I've been here, And look at what's become of that. That Bergevin line is a big part of the reason they're in this spot. And Martin St. Louis being able to get the most out of them is such a crucial part of that. He should get Jack Adams love. They're going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying he should win it. Spencer Carberry is probably the one it's his award to lose at this point. But Martin St. Louis should be in the conversation for the Jack Adams this year, because I think he's done a lot with a team that wasn't supposed to be here, and it's still won, missing its number 2 center, and has been just kind of put together at times this year. And I think that's a testament to his ability.
100%. And I think that's kind of the problem with the Jack Adams and I guess like the GM of the Year award too, is it's awarded on an annual basis as if those jobs are single year accomplishments, right? Like the way Marty St. Louis has approached coaching is very clearly like building layers of things, like for this team, it's a continual process to get to an end goal, and it's working. Like that's the coolest thing, is the Canadiens brought this idea of taking things slow, putting things in place to like build over time, not just in terms of putting players in there, but it was a whole process of rebuilding how they were going to do things structurally in their team, and it's working. That's fun. But what isn't working, in my opinion, is the defense pairings right now. So in a moment, Scott Matla and I are going to talk about the defense pairings and what I think can work if the Canadiens listen and change things up for the playoffs a little bit. In a moment. Before that we do that, though, you got to listen to a advertisement for our good friends, our partners at Le Saint Motel, a selfie studio here in Montreal. Here in Montreal. Looking to make awesome memories with your friends? Take some promotional pictures or videos for your business? Check out Le Saint Motel in Montreal's Sud-Ouest borough. It's an amazing selfie studio located in Montreal's historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, right next to Inchu Bijou. It boasts 12+ unique decors for you to enjoy and make memories with. Hop into their iconic heart-shaped ball pit, or transport yourself back in time to Expo 67. Le Saint Motel can also come to you with mobile decor setups available to rent for events, including setup and takedown, or you can head to lesaintmotel.com right now for more details. or to check out their amazing decors that are always being updated. Now, let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out. All right, folks, welcome back. I am Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Scott Matla from Habs Eyes on the Prize and formerly Locked On Canadiens, which is another show that we absolutely love that you should check out with our friends Laura Saba and Ian Boisvert. The Montreal Canadiens have won 4-1, embarrassing the Detroit Red Wings and their failed rebuild. I'm going to run a promo on you guys. No, but we're going to talk about the defense core. I think that there's something the Canadiens can do that they absolutely will not do because it's very against the grain for what the NHL does and how coaches behave. But I think it would be extremely successful and allow them to defeat the Washington Capitals in the first round. I think the defense pairings should be seen much differently than how teams usually operate. I don't think we should look at it as first, second, third pairing. I think the Canadiens have the talent to spread things out and create 3 second pairings that have specialized utility. One being Caden Gooley and Alex Carrier. They already have worked together in the past. They can be your number one matchup pairing, right? They're the guys that you throw out there against the Ovies, the best players against the Washington Capitals. Then you have Hudson and Struble. Again, they work, and they even work without Nick Suzuki. Both of these pairings are the only 2 pairings that have been put together this season that have managed to have an above 50% expected goals away from Nick Suzuki. I saw Slim Cliffy on Blue Sky was posting this earlier today, and I love that he brought it up because I haven't had time to look into those 2 pairings as deep, but those 2 pairings work. I think those are excellent. You have your Hudson-Struble pairing for creating offense all the time. They're not hurting you defensively. You just throw them out there as much as you possibly can. Then you have, on your third pairing, Mike Matheson and Arber Xhekaj. All right? So Matheson, you don't have to play them as a third pairing. Matheson can be thrown out there with Hudson if you want to have a burst of offense, right? You can put him out there for extra shifts. He's going to get lots of special teams time. And then you've got Xhekaj out there to work with Matheson, add a physical element, play the stay-at-home simple game with Matheson, or say that that's not working, you're not trusting Xhekaj. You can use a Matheson-Savard pairing the same way the Canadiens did under Jacques Martin against the Capitals in 2010 with Josh Georges and Hal Gill. A high-leverage, let them fight, just sacrificial pairing. You throw them out there to just survive and get the puck out of the zone when you need to. And that can work. We've seen it work, and it would allow Savard to have utility in the playoffs when, let's face it, it's not looking too fun out there for him right now. That's what I would like to see the Canadiens do. You can get Matheson up above 20 minutes without having him be your hard matchup guy. You don't have to have him in that role. I think Gooley's already better at it. Carrier's already better at it. So let them handle that. Free Hudson and Struble, and use Matheson as he should be used as like the peak of his ability in the NHL. I think is a mid-range guy who you can throw out whenever. You're not really worried about him, but you don't have to use him against the top guys all the time. And you can give him extra minutes in high leverage situations that match his skill set. Tonight, he had a PK where he played the entire 2 minutes, and he was fantastic. If you're playing him 4 or 5 minutes less a night at even strength, he can do that more often. The dude's got cardio.
And here's the thing is, his giveaway in the first period led to that goal against, and is the same thing that happened in Nashville. And then he locked it in afterwards. Matheson's got his errors and he's got his warts, and it drives me friggin' nuts that when he's on, the Canadiens' defense looks like a well-oiled machine. It's when it feels like his starts, and maybe this is a team-wide thing, he's trying to do too much and he gets in his own head. And the only thing I have with the playoffs is Matheson and Xhekaj both have a penchant for the ill-timed penalty, and not one of the ones like, he held him, he did this. It's a, you did an obvious thing and I cannot let you get away with this kind of penalty, where even in the playoffs they're like, we've got to call that. If we don't call that, it's a lawless mess more than it already is. And the thing is, and we're going to find out, and this was not Kent Hughes' signing. I don't think they would have signed David Savard. This is where David Savard is supposed to be at his best now. This is the playoffs when you block shots and you get the crap beat out of you and all those other things. We saw it from Ben Sherratt and Shea Weber in 2021. Jeff Petrie, busted up his fingers and all that. But this is when David Savard should earn that money. While he's crawling around and speeding around like a tugboat stuck in an ice floe out there, this should be when David Savard earns that money. And it's an interesting proposition that it's like, hey, it's like they used to do with the fourth line. Go out there, just take the punch, get the puck out and change. And it's worked in the past. It was also the past. The game changes here. And if they can get that situation to work where it's like, you get beat up, their top guys go off the ice, and then we're throwing Hudson and Struble out with the Bergevin line, with the Suzuki line, with Demidov and friends line out there, you've immediately flipped the script to, okay, well, they were just defending a bunch, and now all of a sudden, here it is. It's very utilitarian that it's like, you can be here, or you can be here, or you can be here, is that everybody is equal, but some pairings might be slightly more equal than others, which I realize I'm quoting Animal Farm in the current climate. Deal with it. But I'm curious if Marty would go for it. I don't know if he would because he doesn't like tinkering with his defense, because if he did, David Savard wouldn't be playing at all, and they'd probably have anybody else in that spot if they had the bodies for it right now. So I'd be intrigued to see that. I'm also horrified to see how beat up David Savard gets in the playoffs, because I have my issues with David Savard, but I won't say that he doesn't put his body on the line when it's called for.
Very
He
true.
and Matheson in those leverage situations against empty nets have been really good lately. They block the shots, and then Anderson or Gallagher or Dvorak or Evans or Armia or Suzuki is cleaning up anything left there, and it's going into the empty net. It's working how it should, even if it's ugly as sin to watch play out sometimes.
Yeah, I see in the chat people are like, not going to happen. Yeah, Martin St. Louis loves Savard too much. He loves Matheson too much. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to happen. But I think it could work. I like throwing different ideas out there, right? I think that the Canadiens are a team that are daring enough to try cool stuff. Maybe. You never know. Sending this out there to the Canadiens, just give it a shot. And also, I feel like now that they're so close, please rest David Savard and Yoel Armia down the stretch. Just let them heal a little bit. They don't need to be in there. Play, like, Demidov's going to come over, keep Pizzetta in the lineup, let him play, get some reps. It's fine. Let them rest a little bit. And also, I saw a question in the chat from, or not a question so much, but Adam Glingen says that Jack X going to give it to you a shirt from the Canadiens is $75 for a t-shirt. So I'm just going to throw this out there to everyone who knows in this community, all right, who are watching Game Over Montreal. We have access to our own store. Now, unfortunately, it is a Shopify store, and the people who own Shopify are very clearly Nazis and traitors to Canada, even though they are Canadian. We can't really get out of that. We already paid for the year. But if you want us to create merch specifically for the playoffs, we will do that. We can't use player images, but we can be creative. If you have ideas that you want to put on a shirt, we will put it on a shirt for you. I want to do a Big Nick Energy shirt because I just love that nickname. And I also want to do a Jake Evans only scores bangers shirt, but I don't think we can use Jake Evans. We're going to have to alter that a little bit. Probably can't use the word Jack Guy, but we can use an X. We can do all sorts of different things if we get creative. So if you have some art that you want to put together, or like ideas that you want to pitch, throw it my way. You can email me, or you can send it to me on Blue Sky, any social media, you can find my name. So yeah, if you want cool stuff for a lot cheaper than $75, we can make that. We can make that happen and support the Game Over network. So if you want to, let's do it up. All right, let's open it up to the chat here. But before I do, I am just going to tell a little story time as we transition, and the chat can post their questions for us to answer here before we click out for the night. We've already gone pretty long, and I feel bad making Scott stay up. And also, I should probably sleep at some point tonight because I've been up for 2 hours last night. But anyway, story time. I started a couple weeks ago sparring because I've been boxing for 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years now. But I'm just working on my defense because I've never really done that before. So my trainer set me up with somebody who's trying to train to be like a fighter, but they've been having trouble finding a sparring partner because it's a woman. And the problem is a lot of women who are learning boxing don't want to get punched in the face because like you don't want to go to work and have a black eye or broken nose or like a split lip or stuff, right? Like they just don't want to deal with that. There's different standards for women, unfortunately, in our society, whereas men can kind of get away with it. And a lot of the other men at the gym, when she gets them good, get their feelings hurt a little bit and try to hurt her back. So he was like, you don't have like as much of an ego about that. You can take a shot. You can do this. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And basically all I can do is like jab to keep distance slightly and work on my defense and kind of like pressure her to like help her do different things. And it pressures me to help me learn different ways of defending. And she kicks the crap out of me, Scott. She kicks the absolute shit out of me. And I love it because the guys that I've sparred with in the past, they usually take it pretty easy because they're so much more skilled than me. But she's like, I can beat up on this dude. This is awesome. And I don't blame her one bit. It's awesome. But last weekend, the first round, I just was like really sluggish, kind of like the Habs were tonight. And she cracked me right below my elbow, like a body shot in the lower floating ribs. And I was like, oh, that hurt. I got to make sure I protect that area. But I didn't do it very well. And she cracked me 3 more times that same round. And it's hard to breathe. Still, it was not good. But that's what I'm dealing with right now. Getting beat up by a lady every Saturday, but I'm enjoying it. It's really fun to work on it. And I highly suggest everybody get in and learn some combat sports because it's honestly very fun. It really is. And you learn some limits, you know?
As someone who did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and we're going to go back to Scott when he was in college and, didn't know a lot better, is that I went into a sparring match with one of the women at the gym I was at the time, and I thought, I'm bigger. I wrestled at high school. This is going to be easy. That is when I found out exactly what a knee bar feels like, and it's not good, and it's not fun, and it's a very humbling experience to have everyone else in that gym know she's going to kick your ass, but you don't, and they are all watching it happen. It's a very humbling experience, and the thing about jiu-jitsu that is great, because that is what I picked up after wrestling as a combat sport, is the smallest person can beat the biggest person in the blink of an eye. It is a very humbling experience to watch happen. It teaches you a lot of respect. It teaches you to not take anybody lightly. And it taught me everything I ever need to know. I've gotten in hockey fights since then. And everything with that, with using a gi and everything else, is all about leverage. And let me tell you, do not get in a hockey fight with somebody who knows how to use your jersey as a weapon against you, because it's not going to go well in your favor. I'm not saying I'm Arbor Jackeye and that you should hire me to fight people, but watching dudes in hockey, it's not going to go well for you when I know how to use leverage and you don't. This is a learning point. You won't learn anything because you're 45 and balding and divorced. I will, because this is funny to me. No offense to the balding 45-year-old divorced dads out there, but please leave the touch tunes at Chili's alone. People are trying to eat dinner.
Oh man, it is honestly. I do recommend like the humbling experience of realizing how, even if you consider yourself tough, how little you actually know about fighting against somebody who's much more skilled than you. I think it's really informative, and I think people should have that experience, especially dudes who think they're tough, especially if it's somebody smaller than you, especially if it's a woman, because that old adage of like don't judge a book by its cover, that goes doubly for fighters. Like people can be scary who don't look scary, and you gotta know that you're not the be all end all. I think every guy has that like hero fantasy of like, well, this is what would happen if like the bad guy came in the room, and it's like the reality is you die most of the You know, like it's better to know than to think that you're the hero, you know? All right, let's get some questions from the chat here. Claire says you can't use Habs logo. Yeah, you can't use the Habs logo. We could use the Game Over Montreal logo, but we can use Habs colors, but we can't use the Habs logo. You can make t-shirts, hoodies, anything, hats, anything you want, mugs, all sorts of stuff. Let's see here. Frederick, Scott versus Andrew, who wins? I think jiu-jitsu beats boxing.
Yes, and this goes back to when I used to watch a lot of UFC before it turned into a Republican fascist standing point, which it always has been, but that's besides the point here, is that the greatest base you can have going into any kind of fight is wrestling, because if you were ever in a fight on the street, and Andrew will probably tell you this, do not stand and swing with your opponent, put them on the ground and hold them there. It's much safer than thinking you can be a professional fighter in the streets.
Yeah.
Taking somebody down is going to save your life more than anything else. You might get one punch in, but you are also potentially one punch away from being out cold. And this goes back way back to the old Eyes on the Prize chat, where Matt Drake and I have for years that said, one day we're going to get a bunch of beers and we're going to have a backyard MMA fight and see what happens. I don't know if we can still do that, but we're both a little bit older and have other things going on now, unfortunately.
Just wear protective equipment, I guess. A lot
We'll
of
do it for
rules.
charity.
I mean, that'd be fun. A Habs MMA Habs commentator MMA tournament for charity. Just embarrass ourselves, look really terrible. That would be hilarious, actually. All right, let's see what we got here in the chat. Romelli says, once Heineman comes back and Demidov is here, who would you sit between Heineman, Kapanen, and Demidov? Pez is sitting, of course. Why you gotta give us a hard question on a game like this? Romelli, that's cruel,
first
man.
I'm sitting Yoel Armia. Yoel Armia is the guy who's
yeah.
getting sat because he's clearly injured right now.
But he won't be sat in the playoffs, though.
He can't be sat in the playoffs. That's unfortunate. And here's my potentially unpopular take. If this is regular season, I'm also, and they have locked up a spot, I would be sitting Patrick Laine right now as well. That's someone who I think, with the injuries that he's had and needing time to get up to speed, giving him a little bit of rest time before the playoffs might be for the best. It's the same thing with Yoel Armia. I think Armia, at whatever percent above where he's at now, is going to be better than not at all if he's not good to go and that injury just keeps hampering things worse down the lineup there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the lineup here now, and it's a really tough sell at this point in time to say that Kapanen is going to stay in the lineup compared to who else you'd have to take out, right? If Heineman's back, he's going in over Pezzetta, right? He fits in with Evans and Armia. And then you've got Laine and Demidov on the second line, and somebody who's got to fit in as the pivot. Your choices are basically Kapanen or Newhook. I don't think they're sitting Alex Newhook over Kapanen.
I think that Newhook's forechecking ability and speed, and here's the thing is, I love him, and I know that the goals haven't been there, but he creates so much just using his speed and finesse on the forecheck that wins you games in the playoffs. When legs get tired, that's the guy you put out there, and you make them take a penalty, you make them turn the puck over, and you create opportunities. And this is not a knock on Kapanen, and I don't think anyone would take that as that. It's just, hey, you're back here for some games. We're going to get you into the lineup if we can. But if not, here's this whole experience with that as well. There's not a downside to it. It's, like we talked about earlier, found money.
Yeah, 100%. Adam Glingland says, do we think Demidov automatically goes to the second line? I do, because it's the line that makes sense. You want to put him in a scoring position. You're not going to break up Anderson, Dvorak, Gallagher. They've just been money. And Evans and Armia, like, you're not going to play Demidov with those guys. And it's not disrespect to them, but it doesn't make sense. I think it has to be a second line, right?
We're gonna bring him in the way that makes the most sense from his KHL season. 13th forward, 4 minutes of ice time a game.
Yeah.
Martin St. Louis is run out of Montreal in record time.
Could you imagine just burn all goodwill immediately?
We're actually sending him to the ECHL to play with the Lions for the playoffs now. I want everyone to know I'm kidding. Please
Yes.
don't look. I'm kidding. I hope everybody understands that part. So Ivan
100%.
Demidov in the ECHL would be absolutely freaking hilarious.
4,000 points. Adam N7777 says, does Suzuki break 90 points and or Caulfield 40 goals? I think yes to both. I think they're both going to do it.
I gotta check where they're at. I didn't look at the point totals tonight.
They
Caulfield's at
both
37 goals. Suzuki's at 80.
86.
Not to quote the head of the Athletic NHL, but I say he does it.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think he does. I think they both do it. Honestly.
it's Suzuki always shows up real well against the Senators, and they've played real well this year. And there's Chicago left in there too. There's every opportunity, even if the Toronto game goes sideways, for them to both top that. Caulfield needs 3 goals and Suzuki needs 4 points. Absolutely.
Yeah, I see Frederick Willett says Scott versus Andrew and the winner versus Justin Trudeau. I mean, that would have different implications with Scott being an American with the current political climate. But I would say, you know what, nowadays, just based on age, I think my cardio is better than Trudeau. I think I could outlast him, but he's got reach on me a lot, probably. I'm pretty short.
Also, for anyone who doesn't know what we're referencing, there's a very good Vice article about this, and it's one of my favorite things to read once a year that you should just go look it up. You can have your opinions about Justin Trudeau, but the story itself is very funny and very, very stupid, and it's great. So
You're talking about him boxing the senator?
yes, and absolutely kicking the shit out of him. I've actually sat down and found the video on YouTube, and it's even worse than the article makes it seem.
Yeah, and Kay brings up a good point also, that it's nice to have a guy like Kapanen as like a spare. Like that's a really good guy to be able to slot in. You know, and he does bring some of that speed and ability to draw calls that you would think that Newhook has as well, right? So like we talked about the embarrassment of Rich's upcoming with the Canadiens and the prospects and what's going on with Laval earlier. Like they already have more depth outside like their 4-12 forwards than they've had in a very long time at the NHL level, just by Kapanen and Demidov coming over at the end here.
And Kapanen's great because he can be plug and play in any pairing, and he's going to make it work. Like Lane Hudson can go on any pairing and make it work. And I've said this, I was on Locked On Canadiens with Ian Barber, and he asked me about this. David Reinbacher is a guy that you'll be able to plug and play on any pairing, and he's going to work. Oliver Kapanen is a guy you can plug and play on any line, and he's going to work. You need a fourth line center who's responsible, you got it. You need some speed on the forecheck on your third line, you got it. You need a little bit of scoring touch and a new pivot in the middle. You can do that with Oliver Kapanen. And again, all respect to Michael Pezzetta. I love the guy, love his hair, mustache, all the fun stuff. It's a step up from adding a guy whose skill is I'm going to crash and bang on the boards here in any situation. It provides Martin St. Louis flexibility with his lineup.
Yeah. Adam Glingland says Ducharme would bench Demidov. Where's the lie?
I've put that season out of my mind. So I've put it out of my mind.
Well, that was in the playoffs in 2021 against Toronto. He benched Caulfield.
And then he benched him and sent him to the AHL the next year, which is how Michael Pezzetta got an NHL job, ironically. But
oh my God. There was a time in that year where Pezzetta and Lehkonen were the only Canadian players on the team who were drafted with. That's how low it was a mere 4 seasons ago.
My God. I've also now put together a timeline of very funny things of Toronto blowing a 4-1 or 3-1 series lead led to the Buffalo Sabres still missing the playoffs in 2025. Because Toronto loses, Ducharme gets hired, has a terrible year. Michael Pezzetta comes into the NHL lineup in place of Cole Caulfield in that swap there, stays in the lineup, and then in the best Sabres season they've had in years, Michael Pezzetta wins the game in Buffalo in a shootout, causing Buffalo to miss the playoffs. They have not come close since that point in time. It is 2025. Alexander Ovechkin has scored almost 500 goals since the last time they've made the playoffs.
Oh my God.
It's bad. So,
It's bad vibes in Buffalo. That's rough. Could
yeah.
have been here. Could have been here, but they made the right decisions and brought in the right people. And now, just 4 years later, the rebuild is rocking, and the Canadians are on the way to the playoffs. And next up, the next game, this show will actually be on the Game Over Ottawa channel. So go to Game Over Montreal below this video on YouTube. And if you're listening on the podcast later, obviously that podcast will still be on the same podcast feed. But if you're watching live, head to Game Over Ottawa, subscribe to that channel. The stream will be there. We will have it in this same playlist. So if you use the Game Over Montreal playlist or the Game Over Montreal website to watch the show, everything will be there for you. You don't have to do anything, but you can go to the Game Over Ottawa channel to find the stream ahead of time. We're going to be there with you. I believe Kay is going to be on with Mod, which is exciting because they're two of my favorite people and two of the hardest workers in the Game Over network. And that'll be Friday. And maybe Ivan Demidov will be in the lineup. God. Who knows?
Hard to say. Who knows? I will be covering the Rocket game at the same time, so I will be split screening all of that. I have to cover both Rocket games because they have a chance to win the North Division title on Friday and Saturdays this week. So I'll be locked into those while the Canadians play their Ontario rivals in back-to-back games because schedule makers are morons. So,
Vibes are immaculate, though.
it
Laval
can't be
and
beat.
Montreal. Like it's pretty great. It's pretty great. All right, folks. We'll see you shortly. I can't wait to be back on this show, frankly. This is fun. I look back at like when we started this show and I had to sit there through like 20 losses in the first 25 games, or at least that's how it felt. It's good times. Let the good times roll as far as hockey is concerned. This is Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Scott Matla from Habs Eyes and the Prize. Please follow, please subscribe, please hit that like button. And if you really like us, head to our Patreon, which you can find the link in every show or on our YouTube page. And throw us a couple bucks because we're platforming young people across this country trying to build something better as our media industry dies. All right, folks. Later.